Hi everyone. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the methods for recording your observations when you're using observation as a data collection method. Now, depends on the purpose of the observation. There are two types of basically recording observations. One could be called the narrative or the descriptive type of recording, which is normally used for qualitative research. And then you have for quantitative research, you have something called a categorical recording or a recording on a nominal scale. So you have a scale could be numbered, or it could be a scale as per positive, negative, neutral, or strongly agree, disagree, something like a Likert scale, and you could be marking your observations on that scale. Remember that each method or each technique has its own advantages and disadvantages. Let me first start talking about narrative or descriptive recording of observations. So this is normally, like I said, used in qualitative research. Here the observer is observing the phenomena or the pattern or the behaviors and then making notes about it. He or she is dictating notes. Now, normally what most observers do is they make brief notes while observing, and later on they back it up with more detailed notes, more detailed observations. The problem here is that the observer sometimes can be biased in what they are observing. Sometimes they are not trained. Sometimes they just forget to even record the observation. They are relying on their memory, or sometimes they make brief notes but forget what those notes were, or make mistakes in detailed note keeping, or cannot back it up with additional evidence. So here the observer also sometimes has their own interpretations, which again could be related to bias. So what are the ways of addressing it? One way of addressing it is, of course, to have multiple observers recording the phenomena and then comparing your notes later on. But sometimes the problem with this kind of observation, which involves multiple observers, is that your interpretation might differ from the other person's interpretation, and you may end up collecting completely different or varied notes. And this is where the challenge lies in observation. So the other type of observation that we use is, of course, for quantitative research. It is mainly called categorical recording, or a recording on a nominal scale, where you may have a scale such as positive, negative, and a neutral, or you may have a 2-point scale like positive and negative, or you might have a 5-point Likert scale where you have strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree, and you are trying to make your observations on that scale. The advantage here, of course, is that it's quicker, easier, and you don't have to engage in very detailed note keeping. While you observe, you are noting the observations on a scale, so it's quicker and easier to manage. However, the disadvantage here lies in three kinds of biases that may occur. One is called the elevation effect, where, for example, you're trying to note a teacher's behavior in the classroom, and you are slightly biased towards what you expect from a teacher. So you are trying to rate the teacher higher than what they are normally performing or what they are actually performing. So it's called elevation effect, where you are highly rating the phenomena, the pattern of the behavior, just because you expect that to happen. Sometimes you also have the halo effect. That is another bias. Halo effect is when you judge somebody based on a singular characteristic, which is normally positive. So here you meet a very charming teacher, a very charming individual, and you are immediately impressed by the way they come across to you, or the way they are behaving with you, and are a bit biased towards the pattern or the behavior that you are actually supposed to be observing, and you rate them higher than you should normally do. We also have the error of central tendency sometimes. So error of central tendency, especially when the observer is not very skilled, very trained in observing and rating the behavior. So for example, you have positive, negative, and neutral. If you are observing some phenomenon or pattern, because you are not highly trained or skilled in what should be a positive behavior or negative behavior, and this could be because of lack of knowledge or because of the lack of background that you need before you started collecting data, you mark most of the behaviors in the neutral category. So this is called error of central tendency, where you cannot take a stand and you are mostly recording neutral observations, and you are not clearly categorizing the behavior as a positive or negative, or a strongly disagree or disagree. You are staying more on a neutral scale. So these are some of the problems that will happen even if you are using a categorical scale. Then remember that these days you can also video record your observations. So sometimes, like I said, when you are doing a descriptive or a narrative research, sometimes you may be so involved in narrating that you forget to make the notes, or you are so busy making notes that you forget to narrate or even observe the phenomena, and you might miss some of it. So of course, these days you have the luxury of using video cameras, and with online technology coming in, people have been observing carry out observations using Zoom or online platforms as well. The problem is that when people know they are being recorded, they will adjust their behavior to suit your needs, or they will behave in a way that they normally don't in their natural settings. So that creates bias as well, and that becomes a problem. With categorical scale as well, where you are using a numerical scale or a scale which is categorized in numbers, it could be numbers as well. Again, those same biases occur: error of central tendency, elevation effect, and halo effect will occur even in quantitative as well as qualitative style of observation. So you have to be very careful here as well. So using observation is of course encouraged, but make sure that you are very aware of these biases and these errors that can creep up. So you have to make sure that in your thesis, in your review, in your report, in your journal, in your paper, you have identified these biases and you have identified how you have minimized them. Sometimes it's not possible for us to address everything. Like I said, any method that you use will have its own advantage and disadvantage. And while watching this video, you might say that you told me all the disadvantages, but where are the ways of addressing it? So again, I have told you the ways of addressing it, where you record the observation, and you don't have to make notes immediately. You record it, you make brief notes, you can watch it later and then make detailed notes about it. But like I said, each method has this disadvantage. So when you're recording, people become a bit conscious. Similarly, if you're using multiple observers, that is one way of going about recording a phenomena and then matching notes. But the disadvantage, like I told you guys, is sometimes your notes will vary completely different from the others. So of course, every method, every technique that you use will have its biases, have its advantages and disadvantages. But the important thing is that when you're writing your report, your journal, or your thesis, you acknowledge these biases and you show the reviewer or the examiner how you took steps in minimizing them. If you can take steps in minimizing them or addressing them as best as you can, then of course the reviewer will know that yes, you did what you can. So a lot of researchers often attach their notes that they took while observing, and how they kept a detailed methodical note. So just note taking is not good enough. You have to make sure that your note taking is methodical. So you can use those note taking or your notes as evidence in your thesis as well. You can attach them in the appendix section, and the examiner or the reviewer can go through it and see that yes, you have done a good job. You went about it in a scientific method, which helped you to, even if you're using a categorical scale, you went about it in a scientific method, and you went, even if you were describing or you were narrating, how did you go about it? How did you make sure that you observed what you were supposed to observe? And that is why I said at the beginning of the video that the purpose of the observation is very important. Once you know the purpose of the observation, then you can choose whether you want to use a categorical scale or you want to use a descriptive research. So for example, if you are trying to see or observe that how productive are workers in a room, if they are kept in a room and they are unfamiliar with each other, they don't know each other, how productive are they? So you can have a categorical scale. There simply is numbers. For example, how many times, one could be how many times people interacted with each other, two could be how many breaks they took, three could be did they stop work for no reason or something like that. So you could have a categorical scale, and that could be easy as well. So you could be recording them, you could be observing them through a two-way mirror and using the categorical scale. As long as you can justify the purpose of the observation and the method that you adopted, how you address the biases, how you minimize the biases, the examiner and reviewer will be happy with your writing. So I hope guys I addressed some of the issues related to observation as a data collection method. Please let me know if there's something I missed, and I will address it in my next video. Thank you for watching today's video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will see you soon with my next video. Bye for now guys.